academia, because that's the future of technology and future of the cloud. Everybody that's taking a class today in technology, whether that's a two-year school or whatever, they're doing it in the cloud. And we also work with new influencer types. So think about organizations like Girls Who Code, Black Men Who Code. There is groups called, Hack New York, or Hack UK, or Shoreditch. There's all these new partnerships that are forming out there, new influencers influencing groups of people around the cloud. So for instance, New York Tech Meetup Group has 42,000 members. That's just one city, one influencer group. We're also finding that digital agencies are big influencers because they do a lot of work around mobile strategy, mobile work. And they're influencing decisions. So we also have a special program for digital agencies as one of those key influencers. And then probably most of my time, so that's kind of all top down, right? Starting with a company going down, an entrepreneur, an ISV, academic. But the number one area that we believe is the focus are developers. And the developers are the new, the book that's entitled The Developer is the New Kingmaker, or Queenmaker, I like to say. Those developers are influencing most of the decisions today. The numbers range from 67% to 89% of the decisions being made in the marketplace today. In fact, I was just with a CIO, and Robert LeBlanc, my boss, and I were sitting there, and we were asking the CIO, how much cloud are you doing? What are you doing today? And he's like, oh yeah, we're not doing any cloud yet. His VP of development was sitting there, and the more he talked, the lower his head got, the lower his head got, the lower his head got. And so finally the CIO turned to him and said, why are you bowing your head? Am I wrong? And he said, yeah. He goes, we already have 1,800 different use cases done with the cloud. And so the CIO said, well, how? I mean, I didn't give approval or authority. I have the funding. He said, well, we can start, with $500. We can swipe a credit card, and we can get going on a use case quickly. And so many people have done that inside of the organization. And so those developers, while you go top down, IBM Strong in the enterprise, we work with the CIOs and the CTOs, this groundswell from the bottom of all these developers is really important. And those developers live locally. They live in your local regions. So that's my overall role. I may pause and see any questions or specifics that you guys have for me, or shall I continue kind of? Yes, go ahead. And tell me where you're from too.
I'm from Spain.
Okay.
And I want to ask if there is something going on, or it will be something going on related with all that you talk, all these projects in the south of Europe.
Yes. Yes. We have. And where was our innovation center today, Mary?
We have 20 in Europe, in Madrid, in Barcelona,
okay.
South of France.
Similar to this one that you told in New York.
It's very similar. Yes, it's a space. I would call it a space for developers to come. Mm-hmm. We have technical people in the center. In fact, Mary runs these for me worldwide. And the centers themselves are geared to be where a developer could come in and he or she could ask questions. There's a technical resource. There's the technology there on display. There's classes there. There's meetups there, getting people together as a meetup. There are hackathons that we do there. There's something we call Blue Mix Days, which we've run in Spain. Mm-hmm. A Blue Mix Day is very hands-on. That's where I wrote my first Blue Mix app. You go through a criteria and really understand what's happening, but you don't just listen to pitches. You're actually doing it. You're actually coding with it. So absolutely, we think Spain is a really vibrant area.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the developer and for the entrepreneur. Yes.
Thanks.
Sandy, I was just going to interject to what you're saying about the CIO issue there, because it seems to be it's a line of business challenge, because they have the budget to go to the cloud for $50 on a credit card, like you mentioned, and they're just bypassing the CIO entirely. So I just wanted to interject that. I'm Paulo from Canada, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good.
I have a question. Oh, so I'm based in New York, but I'm covered in for a French magazine.
Okay. Okay.
I'm very interested in what's happening now in New York.
Good morning.
Especially the NYC digital
yeah.
events that you run with the NYC EDC. I'm very close to the NYC Tech Meetup.
Oh, good.
And I'm
Yeah.
very interested in what the Brooklyn Tech Triangle will be. I want to know if you are part of it and if you are going to invest in this project. How do you see yourself? How does IBM contribute to it?
So we've decided, so New York in the U.S. is one of the fastest growing regions. It's actually the fastest growing region for entrepreneurs today in the United States. It's growing faster than Silicon Valley, than Austin, than Boulder, L.A. So we want to invest our resources in New York because of the growth there that we see of the tech industry. So the first big thing we've done is we've invested in digital.nyc, which is that digital platform that we talked about. And I think, Francine, if anybody wants, we did a press release with the mayor as well as the EDC, the Economic Development Center there. So we're working, being part of that community. So we're part of the 5-borough tour. We're part of Dumbo. We're evaluating the new project that just started. We haven't made it a commitment yet. We have, though, we met with the founder, I guess she's the CEO now, of the New York Tech Meetup. Yeah. She's got a new space, and she's given us space there for office hours in New York City. So we can do, mobile meetups there. We can have a technical person there that people can just come and talk to on a very informal basis. So our commitment there will be to be part of the community, whether that's, Hack New York, New York Tech Meetup, the New York Tech Council, the 5-city borough tour, Dumbo, what's going on down there. We're going to make investments appropriately. Yep.
Sandy, I handle a magazine called Islam Middle East from the UAE.
Oh, okay. Are you from Dubai?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I love Dubai.
We are based in Dubai, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been there many times?
Many times.
Right.
Yes, many times, yes.
Okay, so I was wondering, from IBM's partners who are there in the Middle East region, is there anything specific that they can expect in this year? We have spoken a lot about the entire day yesterday, but anything specific that the Middle Eastern partners can expect?
Yes, we want to invest, especially, we're going to invest in Dubai, and we want to we have the Global Entrepreneur Program that's there today.
Okay.
We actually have a pretty good number of folks from Dubai who are participating in the program. We hosted a smart camp there in the region in the Middle East to grow that area.
Right.
And in fact, we just sent a delegation to Cairo, to Egypt, to do some work with the developers in Cairo. So we're investing in the whole region. And a lot of that will also be digital. So like we talked about digital.nyc, we'll start with our developer.ibm.com and leverage and use that technology, those classes, to see what else is needed in the Middle East.
Okay.
There is a developer conference I just found out about that's going to be there as well. I went to one maybe 2 years ago. Huge, you guys do everything huge, so huge conference that we'll also be going to support the developers in the Middle East.
All right. And when it comes to the Middle East, is there anything particularly unique about the ecosystem there as compared to other global markets?
I think the uniqueness is in, let's see, how would I say this? We see the digital business giving birth to a lot of companies from women that maybe women in the Middle East did not have the opportunity to participate in before. Okay. So we're really big on women in tech there and digital businesses online. I don't know if that's appropriate for you to write about, but we see that growth happening in the Middle East very strongly. And I think that's really awesome, really encouraging. We see a lot of interest from the universities and a lot more what I would call progressive techniques. I was in Abu Dhabi at one of your universities there, doing many more things, with even things like 6-second videos, 15-second videos to get people interested, courses online, like a MOOC, but maybe very specific to the university. So very much upgrading in the social training and the social learning, really ahead of almost any other place in the world that I've seen from that university teaching perspective that I think is pretty fascinating, yeah. And then I think, just like New York has centered around a set of industries like retail, food. If you want to do entrepreneurs in that region, New York is very diverse in terms of industry, but it's primarily focused. Retail is big, marketing is big, media. Food is big, lots of food entrepreneurs there, and media very big. In your region, we see, of course, oil and gas, which is very big. We see retail, which is very big. So there's sets of industries that also differentiate regions as well. And then the last thing that we see, which is quite fascinating, is just the region itself tends to be social, but not social like using blogs. So in other parts of the world, when we reach out to developers, we reach out maybe with a very technical blog. Middle East, much like short and sweet, which I like too. But they do a lot more like via a tweet or something that's short and sweet, getting the point across, and then if they like it, they'll go deeper. So if you look at our developer.ibm.com, a lot of developers around the world, they go in through the navigation and they'll search and go down. But we found in the Middle East, people go, boom, directly to a site. Like they cut out all the other stuff. So I think that's very fascinating in the way that we'll approach that region.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hopefully that was helpful.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Marisela Ochoa from InfoChannel in Mexico.
Ah.
And I'd like to know what are your plans for Latin America market. You told us yesterday about the motivate the 120,000.
Yeah.
For Latin America appears in that plans, I guess.
Absolutely, yes. And in fact, big growth areas there, Brazil. In fact, I broke my leg in Brazil, in Rio. So much energy and excitement, entrepreneurs and developers in Brazil. One of the best practice cases for entrepreneurs is in Chile. We actually had a delegation from Italy and Spain go down to Chile, because Chile has done a lot with the government to encourage innovation and encourage entrepreneurship. So Chile is actually being used as a region that's being patterned for my entrepreneurs in Italy and Spain, for instance. We also are working in Mexico. And tell me the innovation centers in Latin America and Mexico.
Mexico City.
Mexico City, but what are the ones in?
We have also in Sao Paulo. In
Sao Paulo,
and we are growing in other countries as well. Now we're trying to grow in Latin America.
Yeah, even in Peru, we were just down in Peru, and Peru has some interesting upstarts, again, around actually food, which the food in Peru is fabulous, I didn't realize, but a lot of food entrepreneurs down in Peru and other, again, types of industry. So we want to go, basically we're going to go where the developers are, we're going to go where the entrepreneurs are. We want to go not just where they start, but where they exit well. Meaning, for an entrepreneur, an exit is they IPO, they grow very fast, very quickly, or they sell themselves to somebody, right? They get bought out. And we're finding that a lot of places that start entrepreneurship isn't a place that has successful exit. So, for instance, there are some places in Europe where they start more, but they don't exit as well.
Which part exactly do you think about?
Europe in particular is a different model than the U.S. And I think a lot of the things that are done in Europe inhibit growth because they're very focused on profit. And a lot of times for a new entrepreneur, you need to focus on your top line and that growth. And I find a lot of the VCs in Europe tend to focus immediately on the profit. And so they're very profitable. If you looked at profitability, Europe would have the most profitable entrepreneurs. But they don't get the big growth because they're focused so much on the bottom line. Israel has really become, not the startup nation, but the exit nation, because they grow significantly as entrepreneurs and they exit very, very successfully. We see the same thing in Chile. Chile's doing a lot of good things because of the government support there as well. And then we're also seeing New York and obviously San Francisco.
Hi.
Yes, hi.
Charlene with the Bar Guy. I'm based in New York. I'd like to kind of turn the conversation a little bit to the channel focus. And you had mentioned before that the developers are driving the majority of the business decisions these days. Can you tell me if anything IBM is doing to kind of help its channel partners reach those line of business decision makers and have that conversation with them?
Yeah, so there are, I would say, several things that we're doing. So let's just take, what was your first name again?
Charlene.
Charlene. Okay, Charlene. Let's look at the digital agency program. So that's one example, but I would like to use that as an example. So the digital agency program is geared for, ad agencies, especially in New York, who've now turned themselves into digital agencies. Could be the big guys like Ogilvy, could be some of the, what I call the really eclectic startup agencies like Barbarian, who I think are, awesome and grew up digitally. And what we found is that in the new world, they are influencing line of business. So they're influencing the chief marketing officer. They're influencing the chief sales officer. They're influencing some of the, if you think about in retail, the consumer-driven side wants to do mobile. So if you look at their work, they're getting a lot of requests for mobile strategy. How do I do mobile strategy? And once they come up with a strategy, which is their strength, then the customer will say to them, how do I execute this? And so they're actually influencing more deals now because as the marketing officer says, who should I use to execute this? And all of that's on the cloud. All the mobile stuff is on the cloud. We need to make sure for our channel partners that they recommend IBM. So we started the digital agency program. So we actually have an advisory group. In fact, we just held one down in New York City. I had 24 digital agencies with me, from the Ogilvies to the Barbarians. And what we did is we showed them what types of technology work for a line of business. So you guys saw Watson Analytics yesterday. Powerful tool for digital agencies, right? Automatically spits out an infographic, takes data from anywhere, and turns it into insight. And so what we do is we show them that. But they're not technologists. So we actually go in and we place a demo there, and then what we do is we have an influence fee, and we pay. We give them an influence fee if they recommend IBM. So if they're talking to a client and what they're doing with that client fits our model, fits Watson Analytics, for instance, fits SPSS, fits Unica, any of our products in that portfolio, and they recommend us, then we get a lead, and then those leads will go to partners as well as to IBM, depending upon who they are, and that helps our own channel partners then to connect in with the line of business, because now they're getting leads and they're going to go talk to the chief marketing officer, chief sales officer. But you can't just do that. You can't just say, okay, well, today I'm talking to the CIO, tomorrow I'm going to talk to the chief marketing officer. So we also have training for them on how to speak to the chief marketing officer, how to speak to the chief sales officer. Many of our products that are actually sold at that level, in the product training, we actually also spin and talk that way. We deliver demos for the resellers so that they can really demo the right way, right? Not demo speeds or feeds, but demo business outcome based. We work with the value-added distributors. So take Avnet, for instance, as one example. And they've done a lot of work as we've worked with them to get training programs to teach their resellers how to speak to the line of business. So this is a big focus. Yes.
Hi, I'm Pablo from Buenos Aires. I work for business partners in all Latin America. Are you, with this relationship with the entrepreneurs, discovering some best practices around innovation? Because there is a lot of energy. For example, in Buenos Aires, there are some TED conferences, and just some months ago we break the worldwide record, were more than 10,000 attendees, and really you see a lot of inertia around entrepreneurs and so on. But from the other side, you have partners with very well depth knowledge of the market, so you can encourage your actual business partners to be more, have more innovation inside their companies. Or you encourage them with some practices?
Yes. So there's a couple things we're doing there. So one is we run something called smart camps. And these smart camps are like pitch competitions. And so, I don't know, do you have Shark Tank? And you see Shark Tank in Latin America? You see, where you have a group of people and you pitch the idea and then they decide to fund or not.
Yeah.
So we have smart camps throughout Latin America. And in the smart camp, there's two things that we do. One, we have entrepreneurs who are new come in and present their ideas. But we also have mentors who listen to the ideas. And the mentors that we get are venture capitalists. There are current partners. And there are some IBMers. So for instance, think about how many acquisitions we've done. We actually have many entrepreneurs now inside of IBM. Think about Michelle, who was the CEO of Aspera. or George, who was at SoftLayer. I mean, we have these entrepreneurs inside, and so they also come to provide the mentorship as well. So part of this is a win-win situation. The entrepreneurs get mentored on how to get their business model right, how to do marketing, what to start on first. The partners who are traditional have that infusion of innovation because they see, wow, there's different ways that this is happening now in the marketplace. And a lot of times they'll partner with some of these entrepreneurs. Sometimes I've seen them buy the entrepreneur. I've seen them take best practices from the entrepreneur and bring it back into their company. So those smart camps, I think, are very powerful tools. They're not hugely scalable, but for those that we touch, they're very, very powerful. The second thing that we're doing is, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, is the IBM design thinking. Now, design thinking is not just how to do a UI. It's really a different way to think about your business and your projects. And so we've adopted that design thinking to IBM design thinking, which incorporates not having everybody in the same place, in the same location. And those ideas about, A/B testing, those ideas about quick experimentation, about designing your hills and taking the hills. We have design camps for the partners so that they can learn that new way of thinking. In fact, one partner you saw that we talked a lot about yesterday, Point Source, they've completely adopted and developed their own design center on their own campus now because they've so bought into the idea of innovation. And they're doing mobile in the cloud. So for them, it's really a mandate that they do that. So those are just two examples. The third one that we're working on, we're not final yet, but we've had this request, is because we're working with so many entrepreneurs, we're gathering the best practices from them. Many enterprises want us to come and do a session for them on, acting like a startup, thinking like a startup. So on my blog, I just started publishing. Like today, I published 3 best practices. We had a group of, 500 entrepreneurs, and they shared their top 3 best practices. They came in from VCs and entrepreneurs, and we published that out today for free to everybody.
Yeah.
And so we'll continue to do that, and we'll formalize it, make it more programmatic as we go forward. Because everybody's got this startup fever, right? Everybody's got it, and it's imperative today. This agility is imperative.
The world changes so fast that you need to be prepared to change all the time.
You got it. That's right. And so, agile is the new word. It's an old word, but a new word, because I think before we said agile, and then we put all this process in place. But now we say agile, and we mean, quick. So even for IBM, if you look at our own, we've got developer.ibm.com. We get about 5 million developers a month in that site. We are constantly now doing A/B testing. Do you guys know what A/B testing is? No? Okay. It's called A/B testing. It's a new concept out there of experimentation in the new agile world. Startups use it all the time. And essentially what it is I'll put up a website with choice A, and I'll leave it up there for 3 hours. And then I'll change the website quickly, and for the next 3 hours I'll put up a choice B. And then based on click-through rates, based on success of that choice, I'll either pick choice A or choice B. So the term is called A/B testing. It's very popular today with startups, and so we're using it and adopting it in my own team. And so many of those concepts we're testing out ourselves. So we do that on our developer.ibm.com, to see, okay, what should we do here? What training classes are working? What buttons are people pressing to get to information? So if you think about the developer, 67% of what they do is done digitally. And so getting that A/B choices right is really important. We do it as well, Charlene, for our traditional partners on on going after the line of business, right? We may do 2 classes, an A class and a B class. Which one was more effective, right? Not just which one class did the partners enjoy more, but which one was more effective for their learning style. We did that with our millennial classes. We experimented with one of them. We did a session for our partners and our customers, and we invited them to bring in their millennials and some of their top executives in their company. We sold out the event. We actually had the millennials design the agenda. And, we had that class, and we held that class in New York City. We did a similar class, but we had traditional event firm design an agenda for us, and then we did the A/B testing. Which one do you think won? The millennial one or the traditional? Millennial 1-1. It's kind of a, you know, but we had to prove it, so we proved it, and we do that A/B testing that way too.
Sandy Russell.
Yes.
Robert Dutton, Canada.
Yeah.
I think you've touched on aspects of this with the last couple of answers, but I'm curious what you guys are up to in terms of helping that traditional IBM VAR develop their own development game.
We connect them up with the entrepreneurs and the Born on the Cloud ISVs. And that connection point is really value research. He doesn't have the business skills, but oh my gosh, he can kick butt on that new innovative idea. So the combination is wicked powerful, right? So that's one thing that we're doing for the traditional VARs. The other is that we ran last year, and we ran these in Toronto and Montreal, Ottawa. We ran Blue Mix Days. And Blue Mix Days are those hands-on workshops that we talked about. We ran over 1,000 last year. And in those Blue Mix Days workshops, we had many of the, what I would call asset builders. Because, you know, if you're a value-added reseller, typically you build up a set of assets. We had them attend those workshops as well. So they're sitting right alongside of maybe an enterprise developer and an entrepreneur developer in the workshop to learn those new skills. And those were free. That was open to everybody, and I think we probably sold out of almost all the ones we did everywhere. Sold out being not, we didn't ask for pay, but we just filled up every seat in the room. And I think that training to me is very helpful. And then the third prong is the value-added distributors. So working with the value-added distributors and getting them engaged in what we're doing, and they offer so much to the resellers that by inserting into their curriculum and how they train, that also gets infused out. And then I guess I'd say one more, if I could add a fourth. We've done a set of hackathons. And again, the resellers, you know, jump into that too, the technical folks on the resale team. I'm not talking about the sales guys or that, right? But for instance, we ran data.gov down for Africa. Very successful, trying to brainstorm and come up with applications for Africa around data services and how to do that. We had several of our folks from the resellers participate in that particular hackathon. We've done hackathons with major enterprise customers and you know, financial services, telecommunication. And when we do that hackathon to create assets for the customer themselves. The resellers who, because many resellers work with the enterprise customer, they're part of that hackathon as well, learning the new ways. Are you guys familiar with what a hackathon is?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And then and then I have to tell you here, I've had more resellers come up to me to do a meetup. I've got tons of resellers that now want to do meetups with us as well. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know if I might have missed it. I didn't hear you really talk about wearable technologies in the startup realm and what you're seeing enough. I'll tell you why is that we've got a use case of one of our, and Harry Browser out of SB Nation, sorry. Feel like an NFL press conference. We have a use case, Single Mom who's an artist who got her MFA and then is interested in technology, so we've had her write on that area.
Oh, that's cool.
But that's the kind of stay-at-home business. Maybe that person formerly would have entertained Tupperware or something, or Amway or something else, but there's that opportunity to kind of take, you know, your skill set and, I don't know, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what you're seeing in New York in particular.
In New York in particular? Well, I would say there are two, I would say, killer apps for the cloud. One is mobile, but the second is Internet of Things. And if you look at...
my question.
Oh, that was your question? Oh, sorry. Okay. Pretend I didn't say it then. So Internet of Things is the second biggest driver of the cloud today, and I anticipate that it will overtake mobile here very shortly. Internet of Things, I'm just trying to think about the number. I think it was like 82%, approximately, approximately 82% of our entrepreneurs that came into the smart camps, their solution was an Internet of Things solution. That's huge. I think last year it was like in the 20s. This year, around 80, 82, so something like that. Huge delta, huge difference year over year. So this is one of our big focus areas. We actually, on Bluemix, we've published a set of device recipes. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting out with a wearable device or some sort of sensor, you can actually go out to Bluemix, and there are a set of device recipes to help you go very quickly as a new entrepreneur for the Internet of Things.
What's the URL?
It's Bluemix.net.
Bluemix.
Yeah, Bluemix.
Okay.
Yep. We have a set of IoT recipes. Also on, Harry, on developer.ibm.com, we have what we call a developer center. And we put these, consider it like a special interest group. One of our largest special interest groups out there, and I believe we're getting about 1 million developers a month just to that special interest group, is Internet of Things. And out there, you can ask questions. You know, how did you get this sensor to work? How did you focus on this? We also are focused on sharing stories. So reference stories, Harry, in this area are really important because it's so new.
Yep.
So yesterday, I'll tell you about a couple of examples that we used in Internet of Things for these entrepreneurs, these new partners. So one is a company called Diabetizer. And Diabetizer leverages devices, so a Fitbit, heart monitors, different sensors that when you take your blood, if you're a diabetic, and it gives you a blood sugar reading. They're taking all that sensor and reading data, and they've produced an application built on top of IBM Bluemix, and they're in our Global Entrepreneur Program specifically for diabetic. And you may think, diabetes, how many people have it? 380 million people have diabetes in the world. It is the fastest growing disease right now in the world, believe it or not, which is not good. But this application, there's a B2C application. It's on a mobile device. Sorry, this is not my phone, but a mobile device, so you can get your access if you're the person with diabetes. But also they have a B2B version for hospitals and for doctors, so that when you come in, the doctor has all the data and can better control the disease. Reading from all these different sensors and actuators. But their true business, Harry, is actually analyzing the data, right? So the sensor is part of it, but we're finding that data and analytics, the partners who are really focused on that piece of the equation are really getting the biggest profit and growth in the market. So that's one example. Another example is a company called On Farm. They were one of our finalists last year in the Global Entrepreneur Program. And right now there are millions of sensors that are in farms. They put sensors in dirt. They put sensors to measure the rainfall. There's sensors everywhere now on the farm. So what On Farm has done is they've kind of acted like a consolidator of all these different sensors, because there's no standard out there today. So all the sensors that are out there, and they consolidate the data and create a dashboard for the farmer. It has, again, the data and analytics from all those sensors coming in, and it will predict, do you need to water your crops? Do you need to fertilize? So it helps you with higher growth for your crops. And he's done exceptionally well as well.
Those data that we are collecting through those applications, would it be possible to imagine that they will be shared like in an open data system? Are you trying to promote this initiative that was launched by the New York State?
Yeah. We definitely, so I don't know if you heard her, Harry, she talked about sharing the data that's coming in from the sensor. So it'd be almost like a common pool of gold, if you would, of all the data that's coming in from these sensors. So there is work being done in the car industry. We work with Honda in that particular area. There's work being done in the farming industry, especially outside of the U.S., lots of Latin America, Africa, where the farming data may come. So all these sensors for the dirt and the fertilizer and everything might come. We today don't own the data. We are very open source focused, so we might help encourage, but we don't own the data ourselves. But this is one of our fastest growing areas, is this particular case. And last year, we sponsored a conference called TICON. I don't know if you know TICON. TICON is the world's largest entrepreneur community. And they have their biggest... Yeah, TIE. I can't remember what it stands for, but it stands for something, Harry. But it's basically an entrepreneur conference. And last year, which was last year about this time, we actually did the keynote on what do you need to do to grow your business for Internet of Things. And it was by far the best attended session that TICON has ever held. Now that's pretty good because it's the biggest entrepreneur group in the world, and that was their #1 topic for all of last year.
Second or follow-up question related would be, you seem pretty well versed in M&A, or do you have a biz dev role, or are you involved in biz dev?
I do have a biz dev role.
Okay. Interesting.
We also,
busy day.
Yeah, busy day, right? Fun, super fun day, I have to say. We have a great team, a great energetic team for sure. There is also a separate M&A group. So we do business development, and then we identify potentials as well.
Yep.
And that goes into our M&A group.
And just for everybody, we have about 5 to 10 more minutes before we'll wrap up here and move on to the preparations for the general session.
Yeah, because you want to go see Jenny. Yeah.
I have one question.
Yes.
I'm Karen from Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like to know today how much Watson is accessible to developers, and if you know, do you think when Watson will be available in other idioms, other languages, do you think IBM will be more close to these developers that build innovation initiatives on traditional companies?
So Watson, the Watson APIs are available to partners, of which developers would obviously use the APIs. There's really one set that I would call today that would be really channel ready for the developers. In order to take advantage of it, because it's cognitive, and cognitive is new, we actually do an application, and then we select the partners who participate. I think we have about 900 partners today who've been selected. We're hoping to open that up. I don't know the exact dates to open it up wide and far, but what we wanted to do is almost like that A/B testing we talked about. We wanted to learn where was the gap in skills for developers today in cognitive? What were the types of training? So for instance, one of the things that we learned, you know, if you think about cognitive, right, one of the things that you have to have is great data. So a lot of people are like, well, let's just go to cognitive. But if you try to use, you know, cognitive computing, artificial intelligence on bad data, you get bad things, right? So one of the first things we learned from those partners or those developers who came in was we needed to teach them about data. We needed to teach them about how to cleanse the data, how to get trusted data, how to get a single view of the truth. That was something we didn't guess. We thought that people would understand that and that would be like a natural for them. And so we're learning from that first set of partners as they're going through and you know, looking at that, and then we'll later open that up. You will see this, though, it's very interesting. In the entrepreneur program that we have, many of the entrepreneurs, once they get through that step of getting the right data that's there, we actually approach them about Watson. So think about that example I gave you of Corel Life Sciences, where they use the DNA to find out what drugs you'd be allergic to. We approached them and said, you know what, Watson could add value here. You've got great data. Watson would be great to help you in that quest. The same is true of a diabetizer, right? Once you collect all that data from someone who's diabetic, how do you predict when you might have a reaction or when you might have, you know, potential damage to your eyes or to your feet, which are very common? So we approached them and said, Watson would be great for you. Why don't you consider that? Some of the IoT vendors that we've been, you know, entrepreneurs that we're working with, they're collecting all this great data. Now they've got good sets of data, and now we're approaching them about Watson. So that's another learning we had. You know, we thought, okay, we're just going to take people who come to us, but we've also learned that as we spot these new entrepreneurs who have this great data, we're also approaching them as well.
So I have a practical request. If you can collect all the companies that you talk on today, and what did you help them? How did you help them? And make a short list for us, and by mail to all of us. I think it will be very, very helpful to the...
Okay, yeah, sure. We'll do
Probably
that.
I'll work with you on that.
Yeah.
And we'll get that up here. And I'm also getting the news releases for the Design New York City and our developer.
I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
Considering that we have now Bluemix, which is a kind of platform where developers can build on new application functionalities, and then we have also the cloud market, the IBM Cloud Marketplace, which is here to help and promote and give some visibility on those new applications. How do you help traditional partners to engage on those platforms? How is it possible for them to build new leads on those particular platforms?
So let's take a couple of examples actually from Israel. So Amdocs. Amdocs is a $3 billion company. They're based in Israel. They do primarily customer experience. And what we've done is we've worked with them on one of their traditional type things that they do, which is operational support for clients. And so we've worked with them, and in fourth quarter, we took that customer operational center, and we've now based it all on SoftLayer. And so we were taking them step by step into the new world. So for Amdocs, very big, we've taken them to that step. They're using, that particular application. If you look at Sapien, another one we announced yesterday is brand new, also a company in Israel. They do insurance. And so they wanted to start with their IT services, so we've moved their IT services to the cloud, and that was successful. So now we've moved their demo center to the cloud. So I think in all the cases for the traditional partners, they're eager to go, but it's almost like we want to show them in steps what can happen. And then once they go to that step and they take that step, then they're ready to go. They just go full board into what has to happen. Now, the great thing is about our traditional partners, there are trillions of dollars spent in the IT industry. And not all of that is spent on the cloud, right? And we'll continue to have on-prem software. So we're going to need those partners to continue to support both cloud and traditional. And in fact, we believe that the number one place that the cloud will go is this hybrid, which is part on-prem, private cloud, and part public cloud. So if that's the case, what we need is these traditional partners who have that good mix of skills. We don't want to, just go cloud or just go on-prem. We really want that good mix and that hybrid side. Yes, Harry?
Yeah, I wanted to connect the dot. Earlier, you talked about EDU or education, and it was more, your comments were kind of the Apple strategy of having people use your technology as students or whatever. But what I've seen out in the field is the hybrid OEMs are really niching on education because the compliance needs and stuff don't really justify an on-prem footprint, but they still want the benefit of cloud. So that's been huge. That's been a big target.
And that's actually part of our strategy as well. I don't own that piece of the strategy, but we work together on that. Absolutely, yeah. Working with the IT departments at the schools themselves and making sure that they are also, hybrid based as they move forward. Yes, absolutely. That's a great point, Harry. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, any other questions I could answer for you guys? Thank you very much. Just for the women at the table, we do have our Women in Channels lunch today, and we'll have a very special guest speaker. So if you guys can come, it's at 12:15.